Thank you for joining us today on an episode of our podcast series on the benefits of involving third-party professionals in your divorce and separation. Today I'm joined by Sarah-Jane Turnbull, who is the Director and Mediator from Pax Mediation. We're going to discuss the government's proposed changes to mediation. Welcome, Sarah-Jane, and thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Ifi, it's lovely to see you.
So, I think it's important initially to just start by going back to basics. So, first of all, what is mediation and how does it factor into resolving disputes following relationship breakdown?
So, family mediation is a process in which an independent professional mediator helps you work out arrangements for your children or for your finances, either immediately following a separation or sometime afterwards. It can be particularly helpful to sort out sort of the arrangements that come up when you've separated or getting a divorce, or even sometime, 10 years down the line if you've just got something to sort out about arrangements for children.
Okay, that's really helpful. And is it suitable in all family cases?
So, no, mediation is a voluntary process. So, first and foremost, the participants need to want to participate in mediation. And then secondly, there are some circumstances where mediation may be unsuitable, such as someone doesn't want to negotiate, or there's ongoing police investigation or child protection concerns. And mediation can also be unsuitable in some instances where there's domestic abuse, but not all.
Okay. So how do you assess when cases are unsuitable?
So the process of mediation begins with a referral, which is just contact information. And then a mediator meets with a client at a mediation information and assessment meeting, known as a MIAM. In that meeting, the mediator gives the client lots of information about mediation and the alternatives. And they ask lots of questions about the circumstances so that the mediator can work out whether or not mediation is a suitable process for them, and to signpost them to any relevant organisations or resources that might have come up when talking about their circumstances. So to go back to sort of when cases are unsuitable is as part of those conversations that a mediator can have with a client in an information meeting. They're going to be asking about certain circumstances in order to be able to make that assessment as to whether mediation is suitable or not. It's not for the mediator to decide whether something has happened or not. It's for them to take that information to decide whether those circumstances would fit within the process of mediation.
Thank you, that's really helpful. So I think coming on to the specific proposals that the government are thinking about, can you just talk us through what those are, those proposals?
Yes, so on the 23rd of March this year, the Ministry of Justice announced a consultation about resolving private matters through family mediation. In this consultation, the Ministry of Justice have proposed that mediation would be mandatory in what they've referred to as, and I'll just read my notes to quote it, suitable low-level family court cases, excluding those which have allegations or history of domestic violence. So they have said that they expect that this would help up to 19,000 separating families resolve their disputes away from the courtroom, therefore sort of reducing backlogs and things within the court system, easing pressures on the family courts, and ensuring that the family courts can focus on those that they believe should be within the court system. They also announced as part of this consultation an extension to the current mediation voucher scheme, which has been extended until 2025, which enables families to claim up to the cost of £500 towards mediation.
So how will the plans work, the new plans they've got?
So I think that's the big question at the moment, is that according to the consultation, there will be a requirement for participants to make a reasonable attempt to mediate and to attend a co-parenting plan, a co-parenting programme. And they, in my reading of the consultation, it's not quite clear as to what that will look like from a practical point of view. What does a reasonable attempt mean? Who decides what's reasonable? What's that going to look like? I think it's really interesting to see what that might be. And hopefully the consultation will help shape what that might look like.
You've had a look at the new proposals. Do you think that there are any risks associated with them?
I think it's really positive that the government are acknowledging the benefits of family mediation and investing more money towards it within the mediation voucher scheme. I think that's really great. However, the voucher scheme is not a replacement for legal aid, and the legal aid makes mediation an accessible service. The voucher scheme doesn't work in the same way because you still have to pay for your mediation information and assessment meeting. So there is still a barrier within the voucher scheme. So as great as it is, it's not perfect. And in terms of the proposals regarding making mediation mandatory, I think that we have been having and will continue to have lots of interesting conversations about what that will look like and what that could look like. And obviously there's lots of professionals and other stakeholders other than mediators that have views about that. Some are concerned. And I think from my point of view in a Pax Mediation, what we're really interested to hear from is from our clients as to how they would view it. So the people that we're working with at the moment that are undertaking family mediation, how would they feel if the circumstances had been different and they were being made to? That it had been told that it was something that was mandatory for them? Would that change their engagement within the process? And I think that's something that we've put a lot of thought into since the consultation was released, and I'm really interested to hear from our clients as to what they think about that.
So, do you think the proposals will have an impact on Pax mediation and the work that you do? And if so, how?
I think that we won't know for sure. I think that the government certainly seems to think that there'll be a big rise in the uptake of family mediation. But for me, one of the things that struck me in the consultation that they'd released was that according to their statistics, 60% of family court applications from October till December 2021 claimed an exemption to the current requirement to attend a mediation information meeting, that MIAM, before going to court. So for me, I'm a bit curious as to how that would work, this mandatory mediation. Would 60% of people still be exempt within that current process? So I'm really curious as to how that would impact it. I'm hopeful that this exercise will raise awareness of mediation as a minimum, which will hopefully mean that people have more knowledge of it, so therefore are aware that it's readily available to them. If it's something that they have separated or they're having some difficulties, that they're more aware of it to be able to come and access a mediation information meeting. Whether the mandatory nature of it changes the sort of the marketplace of mediation will be really interesting to see.
So, I know you mentioned a little bit of this earlier, but in terms of victims of domestic abuse, will they need to engage in mediation? Do you think that would be?
So I think this is one of the things that's come out a lot as a result of the consultation, and a lot of stakeholders have raised concerns about it, and understandably so. I suppose that one of the main things that I would stress as a mediator is that I've worked with lots of survivors of domestic abuse that have found mediation to be a very empowering thing, that they have been able to use mediation to make arrangements with their ex-partner in a way that they felt comfortable to do so. So there's lots of positive things that can happen for people that have experienced domestic abuse in mediation. But at the same time, I do understand the concerns that people have raised, particularly Women's Aid, about the current court system has a history of its approach to domestic abuse, and it's been quite heavily criticised by organisations like Women's Aid. So I think that they are therefore concerned that that will then be the case in mediation. And I suppose what I would want to say to organisations like them and any other professionals that work with survivors is that, you know, mediators don't work within the court system. You know, yes, many mediators may be family solicitors that have worked within the court system or currently do, but as a mediator, it's not our role to do that. We're not linked to the court system. We have a separate regulatory body and we have separate training. So at Pax Mediation, we pride ourselves on keeping as informed as possible about domestic abuse and making sure that we work with local stakeholders to ensure our staff are as informed and up to date as possible, so that when we do meet with people that have experienced domestic abuse, they feel as comfortable as possible to share their stories with us, because that enables the mediator to be able to make a decision about whether or not mediation is suitable in certain circumstances. So it's really important that we are informed to be able to do that, because what as mediators we're not doing is we're not assessing whether somebody has experienced domestic abuse or whether or not it's happened. It's not a fact-finding hearing like court. We're there to hear what somebody tells us their circumstances have been and to make an assessment whether mediation is appropriate given those circumstances.
I think one of the really crucial questions as well, given the cost of living is, what are the funding options that are available to someone who might want to access mediation?
So it's a complicated answer, so bear with me. But legal aid is available for family mediation. It's one of the few areas left where it is available. And Pax Mediation, we have a legal aid contract. However, as a result of the pandemic, you know, there has been a major reduction in the number of providers of legal aid for family mediation for lots of different reasons. So, you know, legal aid is a concern as to whether that is sustainable for providers, and which is a real shame because it's a really valuable piece of work and the statistics around it show that it's really successful. But currently it is still available and we still provide it at Pax Mediation. So therefore, if a client is eligible, which is just based on their financial circumstances, then mediation can be paid for by the legal aid agency and therefore completely free for them. If somebody is not eligible for legal aid, and the majority, well, nearly the majority of our clients, one may be eligible and the other may not, that there is this extra funding available at the moment by the Ministry of Justice under this voucher scheme, which, as I mentioned, enables them to claim up to £500 towards the cost of mediation. So it's a really great time for clients at the moment to be able to access mediation, to give it a try, to see if it's something that they would find helpful.
So I think another crucial question, actually, given that you're very well experienced within the mediation sphere, is if you could make any changes to the mediation sphere, what would those be?
I think, like I imagine most mediators with a legal aid contract would probably say that I would perhaps change the legal aid contract if I was in a position to do that, to change the rates and the way in which it's structured, to make sure that it was readily available for those that need it and that those would that would qualify for it. And I would also like to generally raise more awareness of family mediation. I've been a mediator for well over 10 years now, and the majority of clients that I meet in the first meeting still haven't necessarily heard about mediation before they have that information meeting, and they found us somehow. But what I would love is for mediation to be more readily known within the society, so that this concept of we'll go to court to resolve it, or we have a problem, let's go to court, that narrative changes and it shifts towards a more child-focused approach, about how we're having a problem, how can we resolve it, mediation may be a place to do that, and that they seek out a mediation information meeting to be able to talk to a mediator to find out about whether mediation is something that would work for them and their circumstances.
It's really helpful. I think as a final question, what advice would you give someone who had a relationship breakdown and wanted to deal with matters more amicably?
I think that in the first instance, what I would say is to give yourself grace and kindness to yourself and to the other party. That, you know, separation and divorce is one of the most stressful things that you can ever go through, and often includes things like moving house, which is another most stressful thing that you can go through. So it's an incredibly difficult time for people, and as such, we don't often see the best of ourselves or see the best of the other person. So it's to make sure that during that time period that you take care of yourself in whatever way that that looks like for you. So whether that is seeking therapy, you know, going for long walks, playing video games, that you look after yourself, so that, you know, you're in the best place to look after your children if you've got children and that's what you're looking to sort out. And that so that you're in the best place to communicate with the other party, because you will still have decisions to make with each other, and you will perhaps see the worst of each other. So it's to bear that in mind, that, you know, you're experiencing a great stressful period, as are they, so therefore you may not be seeing the best of each other, but that doesn't mean that what you're experiencing right there and then is what's going to happen for the rest of the time. There is hope, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Sarah-Jane. I'm really, really grateful for your time. Thank you.